And you have found us. Yeah, you have. Here I am. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. I gotta switch that. Emil Amok to you. How are you, everyone? Emil, did I switch my camera? Because my camera, it seems like it's. Oh, I don't want to mirror the. I want you to see the actual words. So we don't mirror. We don't mirror video here. Hi, everyone. I say I am the aforementioned Emil. I was listening to Conan O'Brien the other day. He is saying I am the aforementioned Conan. So I just want you to know that just because he has more listeners, he didn't say it first. I mean, you can't copyright I am the aforementioned. But I am the aforementioned Emil. Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. The Takeout, it's an Asian thing, and we like to call this WDAAT. What does an Asian American think? You know that. So I put that in there. WDAAT. What does an Asian American think? Because no one knows. No one asks us. We gotta say it proudly. This is what we think. And as a companion, you can see the things I write, at least for, some of the older things at the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. And I'll explain why. I'll say, you may be able to see the past, the last 14 years or so. But as of the 30th, there will be no new columns there. I'll tell you where you can find them. If you're someone who is a fan or a follower of my writing, and I've been writing these Asian American columns for, since 1995 on a weekly basis. My very first column was on Connie Chung, in fact, right? Connie Chung. Remember, she had an interview with Newt Gingrich's mom, and she kind of deked her a little bit. She said, Mrs. Gingrich, just between you and I. And of course, it wasn't just you and I. It was like the cameras are rolling, and it's going to be Connie asking Ms. Gingrich a question shared with millions of viewers at the time she was on 60 Minutes, I believe. So anyway, that was my first column, January 1995, and I continue to write them. And for the last, they were in Asian Week, they were in a number of publications around the country, and as of 14 years ago, they were also home base at the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ALDEF, the AALDEF.org/blog. And as of the 30th, the new ones won't be there. The old ones might, and I'll tell you where to get the new ones. But I mention it because shortly on the ALDEF blog, I'll write what happened to me this week. I went to a big confab in Sacramento, the Ethnic Media Services California Black Media Ethnic Media Awards and confab, I guess you can call them. They have expo, for lack of a better term. I think they did call it an expo. And it's a kind of thing that I've been a part of for the last 20 years, ever since I've been in ethnic media, but less so the last, 10 years or so. And they invited me back to be the MC of the award show. Now, that was fine and dandy. You can read about that once I posted on the ALDEF blog. But they have all these panels, and I met this one guy named Andy Wong from Chinese for Affirmative Action, which is a legacy civil rights community organization in San Francisco's Chinatown, devoted to fighting discrimination, advocating for the community. Andy was one of the originators and original one of the big pushers for Stop AAPI Hate and to get funding on the state level. And there's something like hundreds of millions of dollars in California funds that they were able to get to amplify the problems of Asian Americans. And it's great, except for one thing. Asian hate hasn't gone away, but it may outlast the funding. The funding is gone in 2026, and now they would like to see permanent funding. And so I was in a meeting with Andy, other journalists, there were about 100 in the room, and it was revealed that still in California, the number one group that experiences transgressions, what do you think? Asians? Blacks? Well, I don't have the detail, but that was the revelation, that blacks still are at the brunt of hate, violence, hate instances in California, at least. And I don't know why it never came up, but someone said, we need to work together to fight, not Stop AAPI Hate, not just AAPI hate, because the hate actually, they're still there. It's gone down from 2021 to 2022. There's still instances, but the thought came up, we need to work together, which is the beauty of these collaborations, right? And so I wanted to talk to Andy Wong and get some comments for a column that you'll see on the Intvw blog shortly. And when I introduced myself, Andy said, Emil, you're a legend. I said, what? What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? Andy Wong? He said, no, you're a legend, Emil. I was humbled. And then he went on about how, as a young man, he read my column 20 or so years ago, been writing it for almost 30. So when he was a kid, and he said, I would look, you were so prolific. I read your columns. You don't know. There was no Asian American voice like yours out there talking about our issues. There's no one saying that this is an Asian American reaction. And as a young kid, he was telling me, I was reading this saying, oh, thank goodness Emil's out there. He has a take. He has a take. And you're so prolific, he said, Emil. You're so prolific. Yeah, they couldn't shut me up. So, Andy Wong, suddenly my hero, right? Like Oprah says, you're only looking for validation. And when you're a writer, or when you do these secret podcasts like I do here, what's the validation? It's not like you are in front of a crowd and you hear applause. It's not like, we're getting rich off any of this. But the validation is when a reader like Andy Wong stops you and say, hey, you're Emil? I can't believe I've never met you in person. You are, he said, he talked about being inspired to take action, being inspired to speak out. And now here's a next generation of Asian American leaders, Asian American activists who are actually doing things like trying to raise millions of dollars to fund community groups, to get out the word, to stop AAPI hate. And then now here's the suggestion that, maybe it should be more collaborative. Maybe it should be a collaboration of Asian, Latino, Black, LGBTQ groups coming together to fight hate, just not stop AAPI hate, but to stop hate. And I thought, wow, this is how these things happen. People get together, they put their heads together, and they make meaningful coalitions. And so I hope Andy finds a way to get everyone together to find the money so that it doesn't end. Stop AAPI hate doesn't end in California. They have a hotline where you can call up and report hate. You can call up and report the need for services in like 200 different languages across the board, not just Asian. So it's kind of astonishing what a little money can do. And thanks to California Assemblyman Phil Ting, who's retiring, which is why there's an urgency, because Ting is gone. The AAPI equity budget is, Ting was able to get that because he was one of the stalwarts in the budget committee. It's all politics, right? And here's Andy Wong saying, yeah, we got to make sure this funding doesn't end in 2026, so they're scrambling. So that was the meat of my story that you'll see on the Aldiff blog. But really, it was the fact that Andy Wong read my column 29 years ago. And now he's an activist. Inspired by my model of speaking out. Asian Americans speak out. Have a take. Have an Emil Amok's takeout. Speak out, take action. And you think about it, it sounds like a little thing. But in an Asian American community that prides itself in being, pride that finds itself too often being silent, too often going to that default position of being silent. Can't afford to be silent now, right? And I've always thought that my work in the ethnic media was to show people that Asian Americans aren't silent. Asian Americans aren't quiet. That we have an opinion all throughout the years. If you think in 2024, looking back, Asian Americans are quiet. I always hope that my column for some people would be seen as a voice. Just an Asian American voice, not representing all Asian Americans, but just an Asian American voice telling an Asian American story, so that when you say, we were out there listening and in the void, there was nothing Asian American. Well, there was an Asian American media. There were Asian American ethnic media practitioners. And there were some reporting, and there were some opinions, opining, editorializing. There was an Emil Amok voice, because that's what I call this Emil Amok's Takeout because that was the name of the column. Emil Amok, Asian Week, January 1995. And so I'm proud that I won the Andy Wong Award from a reader who I just happened to meet this week. And it's a perfect gift for a Labor Day weekend, because it reminds you that no matter how much pay you get, no matter how much, if it's whatever you're looking for, money, prestige, fame, the work that sustains you, the work that matters, that counts, is sometimes this work where there is very little remuneration, where there is very little fame. But when words get out and you can impact people individually to think about community and to take action, that is worth. That's worth all the words, all the columns in the past. And you do this, and it's kind of one way, right? You write your columns, you do your thing online, and you don't hear back from people. I mean, even here, you could put something on the chat box or whatever, but it's kind of one way as we do it. And that's why when you are lucky enough to get someone to reply, it just, like Oprah says, it's that validation. It's thank goodness. I feel it was worthwhile. So for the next few weeks, on the ALDEF blog, I'll be posting some things that will talk about, the last 14 years on the ALDEF blog, ending on September 30th, thereabouts. I will let you know where to find my columns and where to find the new ones, because we're not done, right? We're not done. We're still talking about things. And check out the ALDEF column that posts, probably a post sometime today, and you'll see my connection with Andy Wong. It was a surprise. Never met him before. Of course, I know Chinese for affirmative action, and I was truly humbled by his unsolicited testimonial, which touched me, really touched me. So I should swish out here. Yeah, great awards show. A piece about the awards. I have a link to it that you can see all the other great ethnic media reporters who were honored. Some young, some old, some veterans, but a lot of young people, because they're the ones, they're the future, right? They're telling the stories. They're telling our story. I was so happy to see that. Like I said, I didn't win an award that night. I already won my Andy Wong award. Very gratifying. But so happy to see so many young practitioners in California. This is the state, right? Most Asian Americans in the country. And it should be a model. It should be a model for others to fight, maybe in the future, not just AAPI hate, but all hate, because when we join together, we are much more powerful. All right, I'm going to talk about Kamala and the interview, my thoughts about the interview. We were supposed to be joined by Professor Dan. I don't see him here. But anyway, I'm sure he has a take on this. But first, I want to talk about my storytelling show. If you're going to be in Austin, let's swish it in. Go to eventbrite.com and get tickets to a live event. It's at Unity of Austin, a little church there. Two storytellers meet, Erilyn Hughes and Emil Amok Guillermo. Erilyn is known as the Queen of Weird in Austin. And, we're two disparate souls who met at a storytelling workshop, a solo studio taught by the one and only Mike Daisy. And, instead of throwing spitballs at each other, we, sent emails and talked about collaboration on stories, talked about the power of story to bring perfect strangers together. And we have not met in person. We met on a Zoom box. We met on Zoom classes, but we never met in person. We're going to meet in person on Tuesday for the first time. What's going to happen? I don't know. But we'll have more stories to tell. Surely we'll have more stories. Go to Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE.com. And tickets, $25, good donation, at Unity of Austin Church. It's a small, intimate gathering. Tuesday, September 3rd, 7 to 9:30. Unity Church of Austin is on West US Highway 290. And we met. Amparo Garcia Crow will be introducing Erilyn Hughes, to me. And we should, I don't know what it's going to be like, honestly. But we'll tell stories. We'll have a story to tell. There's me. You'll see Erilyn. And hey, come to it, right? September 3rd, 7 o'clock. Go to eventbrite.com for tickets. I think it's going to be fun. It should be fun. All right, now let's talk about Kamala Harris. Man, this whole thing about the best reaction to Kamala Harris's interview that Trump could come up with is, well, guess what? I'm going to have IVF for everybody. IVF for everybody. It costs thousands of dollars Forget about your health care. I'm just going to offer IVF for everyone. See, this is what I was worried about with this interview. I mean, surely interviews have to happen, take place. That's the way I'm a reporter. That's the way it works. Journalism, public policy, questions and answers, interviews need to happen. But what the Republicans wanted, they just wanted some fresh red meat. They were tired of Kamala on the stage. They were tired of trying to pick apart on the heavily formatted, heavily staged Kamala. And they wanted someone to trash. They wanted something to trash. And that happens when you make public statements. When you make public statements and you make maybe not a gaffe or not a mistake, but you're less than perfect, then you get beaten down. That's what the Republicans want. And the Republicans got enough. They didn't get what they wanted because Kamala Harris is competent. Kamala Harris is not, she's a good candidate. She's not Joe Biden. She's energetic. She was actually not bad in the interview. From the Democrats' point of view, from people who support Kamala Harris, she wasn't bad. From a Republican standpoint, regardless of what she said, she was going to be beaten down. They were going to tear her a new one, regardless, if good or bad. So, considering that the only real thing that people seem to be talking about is Donald Trump, after the interviews, starts talking about, hey, I want IVF for everyone. Well, I'm from the family. Because he wants to win. It's a political thing. Does he really want IVF forever? I don't even think he knows what IVF is. I think if he had his choice, he would think, spending $20,000, $30,000 on IVF, not a good investment. Like an investment in a Trump property or something like that, right? I mean, he's only doing it to pander to the side that thinks he's anti-abortion, which he is, anti-pro-choice, which he is, but he's trying to make that go away. And so, hey, I'm going to forget about cutting your taxes. I'm going to pay you IVF. You want IVF? Here, everyone IVF. So I think it's funny that that's the thing that comes out of the interview process with Kamala Harris. Number one, that, Trump says she's not good, she's not smart, she's baloney. He just wanted something fresh and new so he could dump on Kamala Harris. And the best he could do is say, Kamala, I'm pro-family. Here's IVF for everyone. Can't cut your taxes. I'm only cutting the rich. But everyone else who wants IVF, you can have IVF. Because he doesn't know what it is. And he can't pay for it. And he has no details. And as J.D. Vance tried to dance around the IVF issue, he said, well, this is legislation. It's up to legislation. And we don't have the details. So it's which is exactly what Kamala Harris says when people on the Republican side ask for details on her economic plan. She says, well, I could have told you. They got the same answers. This is all just, trying to one up the other, trying to say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. No, you don't know what you're talking about. No, you don't. IVF. What do you mean IVF? Legislation. Well, same with me. I'm telling you. They're getting bored talking about their talking points. So they want some fresh, new things. They don't want people to get bored about the race. And so here we have everyone's talking about IVF. The Trumps are for IVF? He wants to give IVF for everyone. Where are the details? It's going to cost billions of dollars? You mean you're going to blow the budget on some kind of offhand comment? Yes, Trump is willing to do that. That's what it boils down. That's what it boils down to. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So, but interesting, his PR folks got down on Kamala Harris for everything. Oh, look, that someone said, the table, walls sitting next to the table, and they say, "Oh, it looked bad." It's an interview on the road. It's off the cuff. It's everything that they wanted. I think, considering she did well. Now, it wasn't perfect. I'll say that. I don't think. I mean, the news they made. Besides the IVF thing, Trump is just making up the news. Hey, I'm going to provide IVF. The real news is that Harris may appoint a Republican to her cabinet, which is that, I mean, it's not earth-breaking or earth-shattering. My old boss, Congressman Norman Y. Mineta, Democrat, served as a cabinet member for both Bush and Clinton. Commerce under Clinton, Secretary of Transportation under Bush. And that actually is a practice that is actually not a bad idea. But considering the Republicans who have crossed the aisle to be never Trumpers, I think it's significant. And I think one of the things that after that interview you should be thinking about, if you are a Democrat and you have Republican friends, and if you're Asian American, yeah, you got Republican friends. At that conference, I met a lot of publishers who say, yeah, Asian Americans are primarily Democrat. However, the rich ones tend to be Republican. And that's true among Vietnamese, among Filipino, among Chinese, among Indian, the tech Indians. And I think in this all-out sprint to November 5th, one challenge is, can you talk to your Republican friends and get them to reconsider Kamala? I know one thing. When Hillary Clinton was running against Trump, and Trump would say the most outrageous, stupid things, I'd turn to my Filipino friends and I would say, now, do you back, Clinton? And they say, no. And they'll mention things like her emails, Benghazi, all that baloney. Emails, what about the 30,000? They're just misogynists, right? With Harris, I think you might have an easier time because people understand that Harris really is the face of the new America. And if you're only thinking about dollars, maybe it's hard to wrest these people away from Donald Trump. But if you're thinking about what's best for the community, what's best for people of color, people like us, I think you could be persuasive. So I think that the interview was interesting. I don't know if it really moves the needle any one way or the other, but it does give people something new to talk about, or something to springboard, like Trump used it to springboard into IVF, the IVF discussion, because he has nothing to say about choice. He has nothing to say about abortion. He has nothing to say on the topic because he knows it's a bad issue for him. So he tries to color it, change it, and say, hey, IVF, pro-IVF, I'll give you free IVF. That might knock a couple of people toward siding with Donald Trump. I'm looking at some of the other things that were revealed. That picture, Harris talking about that picture. I guess it's her grandniece. Nice. Where she was when Biden called her, she was doing a puzzle. I mean, nothing was really, like I said, earth-shattering. What was peculiar was how terse she was in a lot of her answers. Like Dana Bash asked her about how she felt about the race thing. Donald Trump talking about her not being black enough, not being Indian enough, and she said, same old playbook, same old Donald. And Bash gave her an opportunity to talk more. She wouldn't do it. which is actually the same old Kamala. Not really comfortable talking about race, but willing to talk about it when necessary. She doesn't like to talk about it. And I think it's because, I don't know, I suspect maybe she fears the polarization of when she goes race. But as I've said in the past, I think you got to play your race card. I think there's nothing wrong with saying who you are. She certainly had no qualms about it on the final day of the convention, talking about her mom. Well, we know we have instances in the past where she is reluctant to mention her blackness, her Asianness, and I think it's because she borrows this page from Obama. It's obvious, better left unsaid, but it's important. I'll tell you why. And it's like I've always felt, when I see her, I see someone like me. When I don't see her refer to our connection, I wonder. It's our way of sharing the joy of seeing someone like us on the verge of being elected to the highest office of the land. I mean, I get the strategy, but I suppose she feels it's, this way is strategic. This way, she just wouldn't talk about it. She wouldn't engage with Dana Bash. But she was willing to talk about diversity of opinion and getting those Republicans on, or some Republicans on her cabinet, which I suppose works to her benefit if people keep trying to tag that, San Francisco liberal. San Francisco, I saw one of the, I guess it's one of the first ads now, where a white woman victimized talks about some guy who did her wrong, I believe. It was on so quick, I missed it. But it had something to do with how Kamala Harris was pro-criminal. She wasn't anti-criminal enough or something. She wasn't law and order enough. Very biased piece of campaign material, an ad. Caught it on cable during the football game, watching the Colorado Buffs get by North Dakota State. But it was interesting because they wanted San Francisco liberal. Here she is. But they can't touch her if she's saying, hey, I'll report her. I'll appoint a Republican. I'll appoint a Republican to my cabinet. Governor Walz seemed kind of out of place. They asked him a question about his military service. It's just, I don't know. The interview, I didn't think it really, aside from providing Republicans fresh stuff that they could attack, I don't think it really served any purpose. A joint press conference might be good. I know you do that once a week or something like that. Actually, not once a week is too many. They're going to have a debate. And then if you have occasional, interviews off the cuff. But the Republicans are trying to say, look, Kamala is stupid. She's not good off her feet. She can't think off her feet. She can't. I think anything you saw yesterday that might show that is because, they probably did the interview late in the day or after, travel, after, all the campaigning. So they're not getting her at her best. But this was what it is. I think she was competent. She showed she could do it. What's the big deal? Except to provide a framework for Republicans to dump more stuff on Kamala Harris. So that's why they wanted it. No one, the Democrats, voters on either side really cared. But Republicans are making an issue out of it. It's been done. Let's see when the next one is. I don't think there is going to be a next one. Maybe some impromptu things off the plane. Maybe one press conference. Maybe one. There's a lot of campaign stops. And I think we're going to see enough. If there's one thing you can criticize her on, is maybe she would have had a better answer to, what do you do on day one? What do you do on day one? I mean, what can you really do on day one? Like an executive action. And I would rethink that, because President Biden has rethought that, or thought about that. And on day one, he had a whole list of things. One of which was to send out a proclamation about Asian Americans being part of this society and to condemn AAPI hate. That was not lost on many an Asian American activist. So, Kamala Harris, do this again. Get your, this is what I do on day one down. Your supporters will know you're ready on day one for whatever. Your detractors will be impressed that you thought about it. All right. I guess that's it for today. A lot of football. And before I came in, they were talking about the soft-sided helmets. I was watching a lot of 7-a-side touch football. I know recently when I was traveling, there was nothing on. And I swear, I think that is football. Manipulation of the ball, throwing it, running it. It's not like the bowling over. You don't get that kind of, that kind of gusto. But for me growing up, it was all about playing in the playground. We couldn't have uniforms. And we played sans helmet and we threw the ball. That's football to me. Later on, when I played tackle for Pop Warner Pee Wee team, we did have helmets. And I swear, as much as I enjoyed it, I thought it was dangerous as hell. And I kept thinking, do they really care if I can lose my, all my, the control of my limbs? I can, be brain dead from being struck, in the head by this helmet that looks like it's seen better days. I mean, I remember I was fine in Pop Warner, but when I played high school ball, oh my God, the first concussion I had, and it was a concussion. No one knew because I didn't say, but I was concussed. I should have been dead. I went for a tackle head first, trying to go with that. Oh, in soccer, they always say this is the hard part of your head, right there by the forehead. If I had my helmet on, I went for the tackle. On impact, it was like the lights went off. And I was reading about that football player who died recently, 13-year-old football player, on contact, dead. Like the lights went off. I know what that feels like. But for me, it was like the lights went off and it came back on. I thank my lucky stars, and I quit playing football the next week because I wasn't going to take that chance. They didn't care about me. I didn't care about them. I joined the debate team. But the kind of helmet you should have is more like the rugby style. There's a lot of contact in rugby. You get cauliflower ears, but you don't get too brain damaged. I'm sure there are concussions in rugby, but because there's no helmet, you don't lead with the head. You don't go helmet to helmet. You don't bash each other up that way. If football was more like rugby, and even with soft, sided helmets, you get some impact, but you don't have that hard helmet to helmet, plastic on plastic. I keep thinking about this because, like I like to say, it doesn't doesn't matter when you play. If you played, no matter what age, Pee Wee, Pop Warner, junior high, high school, college, pro. If you've been in a huddle with pads, if you've been assigned to play, ready, break, and you go out to the line. If you played in the wet, the dry, in several different environments, if you played with pads and a helmet, you know football. And, I loved every second I had the time to play. But I'm glad I stopped when I did, because I just know. I know what that concussion felt like, and I know repeated concussions, oh my God. I feel it as I get older. I feel like, oh, did I forget that because of that blow I took when I was in high school or when I was in Pop Warner, and this big fullback came barreling down and I was playing middle linebacker? When Governor Walz talked about we had a 4-4 defense, I know exactly that defense. The 4-4, you got help. The 4-4, you get help. We're running a 6-1 defense, 6 linemen, 1 middleman, monster man. Who was the monster man? Me. I'm Pop Warner. I could be monster man. But I don't know how many concussions, unreported concussions I had because I was the monster man. Anyway, looking forward to football season. I'm not ashamed to say I actually root for Fresno State. I didn't go there, but I've loved their teams the last couple of years. I root for them. I hope they do well. I guess a little bit I'll root for Harvard. Yeah, Harvard. The Fresno State, the proximity, because I'm out here in California. The Raisins, go Raisins. Oh, they're not the Raisins. They're the Bulldogs. Go Bulldog Raisins. Go. All right, that's our show for today. Hey, one more mention of, a little slow on the uptake there. 2 storytellers meet, Erlen Hughes and Emil Guillermo. I know Labor Day is on Monday. You don't want to labor on Labor Day, but on Tuesday, 7 o'clock, that's right, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, get on down to if you're in Austin, this is only going to be live, Unity Church of Austin, 5501 West US Highway 290. I know there are a lot of Asian Americans in Austin. I know there are. Come see the show. It's get your tickets on Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE. It's a fun show. It's going to be a fun show. It's what happens when 2 strangers finally meet in person. Yeah. Suddenly, they're not strangers. But maybe they're the perfect strangers. They're the people you know that you don't know. The kind of strangers you want to meet. Or maybe they are strangers who will always be strangers. Does meeting in person make a difference? We shall see. Get your tickets on Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE.com. Fun show. I'm going to be in Austin on September 3rd. And then again on the 7th, same place, another different show, but more like I'm part of a storytelling show with 4 or 5 other storytellers. This one, it's just me and Erlen. A departure from Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, but the same charm. The same charm is all that, of course. So please, a way to spend the post-Labor Day. And then check out I believe my column is up. Let me see. It may be up. On the Aldef blog, where I talk about meeting Andy Wong. Why should me meeting Andy Wong be important? Well, he was a reader of my columns, and I was so surprised that it had the kind of impact it had. So check that out. Think about that on Labor Day. Think about that, about the work you do, and how sometimes I don't value the work that I do because it seems like you're writing alone or you're out there speaking alone, but you're not alone. And that is the value of winning an Andy Wong award. He happens to be the guy. One of the readers came up to me and said, Emil. Well, it was nice meeting you, Andy. Power to you. So, we close our show today. Big weekend ahead. Hope you'll have a good weekend. If you are cooking out, having a cookout, remember, vegan. I mean, even the vegan hot dogs these days the vegan hot dogs are so much better. I love Field Roast products. They're not a sponsor or anything, but I love Field Roast products. I also like all the fake meats now. The new fake meats, Beyond and Impossible. If you're going to choose between one or the other, Beyond doesn't test on animals. Beyond is, I think, the best. I had some Beyond the other day, and I was really impressed by it. So, if you're looking for some fake meats to put on the grill, although, frankly, a nice carrot, a nice mushroom. That was one thing about the awards thing that I went to at the Sheraton Grand in Sacramento this week. They had vegan options. Unfortunately, I don't like to eat when I perform. But, for lunch, I had great vegan options. It's a thing. So go vegan at your Labor Day picnic, your Labor Day cookout. Go vegan. Remember the animals. Why are they giving their life up for your Labor Day cookout? Think about that. And then go vegan. Hey, we like to end each session with a little loving kindness. It makes a difference. I was reading something. Now, if we all practice a little loving kindness, that would be so much better. I was just reading this thing. Brazil has banned X, and Elon Musk is thinking like he's above the law. This is the kind of Trump thinking that's infecting our society. People thinking they are above it all. I don't have to do that. I'm better. People think that. Thanks to Donald Trump. But follow that story. All right, so we're going to sit and do nothing. Maybe that's the ideal thing for the holiday weekend, right? That's the answer on Labor Day. Just do nothing. I hope you do a productive instance of nothing. It's helpful. But think of practice the loving kindness meditation. It helps. Metta, M-E-T-T-A. Because I'm surprised how it's helped me sometimes be more in control. So instead of firing out at someone, and Sharon Salzberg, her definition is mindfulness. Loving kindness means I don't punch you in the face. That's a simple thing. Yeah, but it works. Because the more love you give, the more you get. How many times have you heard that? The more you get, the more you give, the more you get. Twofold. It boomerangs. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Have a great Labor Day weekend. See my column on the ALDEF blog. Till next time. Mahal